You're watching Beyond the Whistle, brought to you by NCTV.
Hello again, everybody. I'm Matt Schlegel here for NCTV with my partner and colleague, Scotty Luntz. We've got a great new graphic format for you guys today, and we got a jam-packed schedule, so we're going to get right into it. NBA playoffs, Stanley Cup playoffs, NFL draft, and all MLB talk towards the end. Scotty, how's it going, bud?
It's going well, Matt.
All right, let's hop into the NBA playoffs. They have really become one of the premier sports in this country, in the world. Everybody loves to talk about the NBA playoffs, and second round is underway. Celtics, Cavs, Rockets, all up a game on their respective opponents. The big question, though, is the East, everybody thinks the Cavs are going to roll. The West, everybody thinks the Warriors are going to roll. Can you beat either of those teams? Who can do it, and how are they going to do it?
I think the Cavs have a surefire way to the finals. I used to think that the Raptors actually had a good shot of knocking them off after they got Serge Ibaka. We know he's a playmaker. But the Celtics struggling in the first round, I don't think they can knock off the Cavs. And I'm not sure the Raptors can either. Maybe they'll win a game or two, but I'm pretty confident the Cavs will get past that challenge. Now on to the West. I'm really liking the Rockets. They had a huge one, a dominating blowout last night versus San Antonio. And this is a team that I could see making a run. They run the ball fast. Mike D'Antoni's offense is made perfectly for this team. You got players off the bench who can provide. Nene Hilario at 34 years old, still doing it. And you got Eric Gordon, Lou Williams. James Harden, obviously, debatably the MVP of this season.
Yep.
I think the Rockets could knock off the Warriors in 6 or 7 games.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the East, I agree with you as a Celtics fan. Unfortunately, I don't think they're going to be able to take down the Cavaliers just yet. I think they're still a few years away from that. In the West, I think you can never really... Last night has swayed my opinion a bit. I was going to come in and say I think the Spurs can beat them. I'm a little hesitant to do that. But if they do get to see the Warriors in the Western Conference Finals, then I do give the Spurs a shot just because in the NBA it's all about matchups. And the Spurs match up well with the Golden State Warriors for one reason, and that's that what do the Warriors have? They have just 4 absolutely dominant players in their starting lineup: Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, and Kevin Durant. What is like the whole foundation of how Greg Popovich runs this team? Depth, everybody contributing, everybody having a job to do, and everybody getting it done, and everybody executing what they're asked to do. So you look at maybe for a 10-minute period total in the second and third quarter, in the first few minutes of the fourth quarter, if you're looking at the Spurs bench against the Warriors bench, I'm taking the Spurs all day. They played in a 7-game series. The Spurs bench would sweep the Warriors bench. Fortunately, that's not how it's going to go down because both teams are going to have their stars. What I think the Spurs could do is if in that period when the starters are off the floor for the Warriors, if their bench, if they come out and they build like a 10, 15-point lead, and then with 8, 10 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, they hand Kawhi Leonard and LaMarcus Aldridge a 10, 15-point lead, like I said, maybe they'll be able to hang on and beat them. There's no team more fundamentally sound than the San Antonio Spurs, and led by Kawhi Leonard, who's probably the most diverse and best player in basketball on both ends of the floor combined. You got to always give him a shot with Popovich, I think. As for the East, I don't see, like I said, don't see anybody getting past the Cavs. One thing that I do want to note, call me crazy, call me biased, there's another team I think could really give the Warriors a series, and I think that's the Boston Celtics. That being the last 3 times they've played. First of all, since Steph Curry's been in the NBA, there's only one team he's never beaten by more than 5 points. That is the Boston Celtics, led by Brad Stevens. And here's why. The Celtics have 2 very good defensive guards, in Marcus Smart and, in my opinion, the best perimeter defensive player in the NBA, in Avery Bradley, terrific defensive player. They can lock off Steph and Klay, and we've seen them do that. They beat him in Oracle this year. They beat him in Oracle last year. What they do, they clamp those two on. They clamp Smart and Bradley on Steph and Klay. Bradley frustrates the heck out of Steph Curry, all over him, swatting the ball away. And then you give the ball to Isaiah Thomas late in the game. You give Jay Crowder opportunities to really do what he has to do down low. Unfortunately for the Celtics, I don't know how they would stop Kevin Durant, but at the same time, I don't know that Kevin Durant is prepared to carry a team to a win in the playoffs, seeing as that's why he's in Golden State in the first place, because I don't think he can. Stanley Cup playoffs. We're going to be joined here by NCTV's very own Quinn McMahon. Quinn, how's it going, bud?
I'm good, Matt and Scotty. Thanks for having me.
All right, Quinn, talk to me about the playoff format. It's new this year. From the NHL's perspective, do you think they're doing this for better ratings, better games, and what are your thoughts on the whole process?
Honestly, guys, I do think it is time for a change with the format and have the 8 best teams in the conference ranked by the amount of points they have instead of what division they come from. We saw these problems in 2016 as the Islanders purposely dropped to a wildcard spot in order to avoid the tough Metropolitan Division featuring the Capitals and the Penguins and to play the Atlantic Division champions Panthers, resulting in the Islanders' first playoff series win of the millennium. I truly just don't believe it's fair for teams like the Capitals, who finished with the most points in the league but still drew the defending champs in the second round. But in the end, just like all the coaches are saying about the topic, until they change it, it is what it is.
Now we're looking at the Caps and Pens. They're meeting in the playoffs once again. Alex Ovechkin, Sidney Crosby. We're getting used to it at this point. Last night in overtime, Kevin Shattenkirk, about 3.5 minutes into the game, scored the game-winning goal to make the series 2-1 Pittsburgh. Capitals trying to claw back and give their series, make this series a little bit better. Quinn, how is this series going to go down the rest of the way, and why does Pittsburgh give so many challenges to Washington?
Well, guys, the Capitals picked up a huge win in overtime last night after they gave up 2 goals, a 2-goal lead with 2 minutes to go. Braden Holtby looked unbeatable in net with the exception of those last 2 minutes, and after he got pulled in Game 2, he needed a big performance. While going down 2-0 in the series and heading to Pittsburgh, the Capitals could have easily gone into their shell and surrendered, but they came out in Game 3 and played with intensity, grit, and passion, giving us a glimpse of the team that won the President's Trophy in the regular season. With that being said, the Penguins are absolutely surging thus far, with Crosby, Malkin, Kessel, and Guentzel leading the NHL in points in the playoffs. Marc-Andre Fleury has been stellar after being named the backup before the playoffs started, but Matt Murray went down and Fleury got the call and has performed. However, star captain Sidney Crosby of the Penguins went down during Game 3 and did not return. The severity of the injury is unknown as of now, but that could be detrimental to the Penguins' chances at a run. With all this being said, I think the series is going to have a fantastic finish with the possibility of a Game 7, and I'm really excited to see how this one plays out.
And finally, Quinn, your New York Rangers are down 2-0. They're heading back to the Garden tonight. What do they got to do to get past Erik Karlsson and the Ottawa Senators? Because they haven't been able to do it thus far.
Well, guys, although the Rangers are down 2-0 in the series, they are going back to New York, and the Rangers easily could have taken both games 1 and 2 in Ottawa. The Rangers are finally getting production from big-name guys like Derek Stepan and Chris Kreider, who were silent early in the playoffs. But their main problem right now is maintaining leads and keeping the Senators from scoring goals. Lundqvist was off his game in Game 2, but I think the extended break between Games 2 and 3 will help out the 35-year-old vet get his game back. So right now, the biggest problem with New York is their defense. Coach Alain Vigneault said newly acquired defenseman Brendan Smith needs to see more ice time, and they have to match their defensive pairings on the flourishing forwards of Ottawa, like Jean-Gabriel Pageau, who scored 4 goals against New York in Game 2. This means Captain Ryan McDonagh shouldn't have to play 25-plus minutes for the team to be successful. If New York can bounce back and win Games 3 and 4 in New York, this series will be theirs to lose. But if they can't figure out how to stop the surging Senators, this one could be over on Thursday.
And Quinn, we have 2 Western Conference matchups that are really up in the air. We got young squads. What do you see coming out of this one?
We've got some good ones in the West. Let's start with the Oilers and the Ducks. From what I saw Sunday night, the Oilers are extremely talented. However, they are young and inexperienced. After going down early to the Ducks in Game 3, the Oilers were able to fight back and draw it to 1 in the second, but the Ducks were just too much to handle late in the game, and they took it 6-3. With the Oilers up 2-1 in the series, the biggest thing they need to do is get some composure. If the young guys in Edmonton get too jacked up and excited for what's to come, they could let this one slip right out of their fingertips. This won't be easy for 20-year-old captain Connor McDavid and the goalie in Cam Talbot, who's only been a starter for 2 years now. However, I think the Oilers will take this series in 6. For the Predators and the Blues, I've got the Preds. Nashville responded nicely after Game 3 after taking their first loss of the playoffs in Game 2. The Preds are really hitting their stride. They're skating too fast, hitting too hard, shooting too fast to lose this series, not to mention the absolutely outstanding play of Pekka Rinne, who is leading the NHL in save percentage and goals against average in the playoffs. For the Preds, it's not one guy leading the way, but it's the whole team buying in and contributing, and that's what it takes for a team to be successful in the playoffs. I think they're just way too much to handle, guys.
All right, thanks, Quinn.
All right, guys, thanks for having me. Have a good one.
Hope to be joined by him later on in the season as the Stanley Cup playoffs continue. Scotty, now you and I are going to talk a little hockey. Your Islanders, they did not make it this year. My Bruins were eliminated in the first round, so we've got no rooting interest left, just watching it for the good of the sport. The series I want to talk about is Pittsburgh and Washington. Like I said last night, Washington narrowed down the series. The Penguins lead to 2-1, from 2-0 to 2-1. Alex Ovechkin and the Capitals, they're making a series now, and this is supposed to be their year. They were the President's Trophy winning team for the second year in a row. Alex Ovechkin's never been out of the second round of the playoffs. I thought this was the year. They fall behind 2-0 at home. I wrote it off. Last night, Shattenkirk's overtime goal, after blowing a 2-0 lead and the Penguins knotting it up with just 14 seconds to go, I thought maybe this was not going to be the Capitals' year. I'm still going to give them a great chance to win, especially if they win Game 4, they tie this series up. I think all the momentum's in their favor going back to Washington. I do think this is their year because they have just way too much talent. Ovechkin, Backstrom, Shattenkirk, Orpik. The list goes on, and I can go on forever, and they have one of the best goaltenders in the NHL, Braden Holtby. What are your thoughts on this series, and how do you see it playing out?
Coming to this series, I actually thought Washington was going to hand the Pittsburgh Penguins an L, the defending Stanley Cup champions. But now looking at it, the Penguins are coming back with fire. Matt Murray, who we thought was going to be starting for these playoffs, this Pittsburgh Penguins team, hurt. Now you got Marc-Andre Fleury, obviously the experienced veteran, who I think has done a phenomenal job so far. And then you got Sidney Crosby, who's hurt this year. We heard the Hart Trophy finalist announced yesterday, and honestly, every year it seems like Sidney Crosby is a Hart Trophy finalist. I think this Penguins team will come out with it, but it really depends on how Alex Ovechkin can will this team to win. They have pieces. They have Brooks Orpik, Kevin Shattenkirk, as you said. They have the pieces to make it work. However, I'm just not sure if they can put it together. Again, back to the Capitals, though. If they do get past this series, Braden Holtby is going to be the key. Yeah. I think he's the Vezina Trophy winner. He's been the best goalie in the NHL this year, and he's going to play a huge part for the Capitals getting past. And then there's some key injuries on the sides of the Penguins. We have Crosby is hurt. Letang's out for the year. We have a lot of problems on this Penguins team, and the Capitals need to capitalize on that. But yesterday in that 2 goals in 48 seconds, I didn't see that. And a team that can lead up 2 goals in 48 seconds to a very banged-up Penguins team, I don't think can make it past the second round.
Yeah, I know, and I think the big thing for Pittsburgh, like you said, Crosby got nicked up yesterday, Letang's gone, they need some star power, and Phil Kessel's a great player, Nick Bonino's a great player, but if Evgeny Malkin is one of those all-world players who hasn't really stepped up yet this series, he's got to play better for Pittsburgh, especially if Crosby's not 100%, so that's something to keep an eye on. The other series, Game 3 tonight in Madison Square Garden, Rangers-Senators. Senators up 2-0. 2 wins back in Ottawa. Craig Anderson's had a fantastic playoffs, which is good to see with everything he's been going through with his wife and her illness. But at the same time, you're looking for a good series. I'd like to see the Rangers really, make this one close in New York. How are they going to do that? What does Lundqvist and the boys got to do tonight?
Lundqvist has to come up with, he cannot allow more than 2 goals. If Lundqvist allows more than 2 goals, the Rangers don't win this game. The Rangers are an offensive style team, and I think Rick Nash needs to have at least a point in this game. He has been their fire. He dropped off the last couple of years, but back to that 30-goal season he had when he first joined the Rangers, I think he's going to provide some fire for this team. I think the Rangers take it. They're home. They're back in MSG. I think they make it a 2-1 series. I don't think they're going to go on to win the series. I think the Senators are going to eventually close it out. But the Rangers will definitely make it a game.
Yeah, I didn't think it was going to be a very close series at first. I thought the Rangers were going to win handily, but the Senators have surprised me, and that's much to the liking of Erik Karlsson, who I'm prepared to say might be the best defenseman in the National Hockey League, especially on the offensive end of the ice. Watching him play is absolutely miraculous. His hands are slick. He's fast. He's got tremendous vision. Erik Karlsson, one of my favorite players to watch in the NHL. I'll be looking forward to watching him tonight. Quick thoughts on the West. I'm taking the Oilers to get to the Stanley Cup Finals because why not? They got young Connor McDavid, who's probably the best player in hockey already. Could probably win the Hart Trophy this year. Led the NHL in points. He's going to be something else. He might be Gretzky 2.0 there for Edmonton. I'm taking them just because why not? They're young, they're hot, and they're rolling right now. Who do you like out of the West?
Yeah, I'm going to take the Oilers also. I'm going to have a Penguin-Oilers Stanley Cup matchup.
All right, now we're moving on to the NFL Draft. Happened this past Thursday. My New England Patriots did not have a first-round pick. Kind of a boring draft. Traded away most of their picks. Scotty, big name, T.J. Watt. That's going to be fun to watch for your Steelers. So, aside from our rooting interests, winners and losers from the draft. Give me a winner, give me a loser.
So winner, I'm going to go with the Browns. The Cleveland Browns did phenomenally this year. They got Jabril Peppers, who fell, obviously, because that diluted sample, which counts as a failed drug test, which there has been some controversy over.
Yeah.
A couple guys, Reuben Foster, also with a diluted sample. But these Browns, they got Myles Garrett, obviously the best player in the draft. I think there's no question about that. He's the defensive end that could really revamp a team. And you look at the Browns team, there's no key player that really stands out. When you go against this Browns defense now, you have to scout Myles Garrett, and you have to look out for a guy as an offensive player like that. Then you got Jabril Peppers, as I said, great safety, hybrid, can play corner, can play both safety positions. It'll be interesting to see how he does in the NFL and if he can keep his mind away from off-field issues. Loser, I'm going to go with the Chicago Bears. Chicago Bears traded for the number 2 pick. They gave up pretty much every pick in the draft, all of their other picks, for Mitch Trubisky. This is a home run or nothing deal, but it really feels like they're betting against themselves. I don't really think there's much else that they could have gotten. You hear the 49ers saying, we really didn't know who Chicago Bears were going to select with that number 2 pick, and they were pretty confident they were still going to select Solomon Thomas, even if they didn't trade the pick. I think the Bears should have just waited for their number 3 overall pick, but if they wanted to go with Trubisky instead of just giving up the whole bandwagon.
I totally agree, and with that, one of my winners is the San Francisco 49ers. I thought they had a great draft. I think they won the draft because, like you said, at pick number 2, I think their plan was to pick Solomon Thomas, and then here are the Bears. I mean, I don't think the 49ers had intentions on taking Trubisky, but here come the Bears offering up so much for the Niners to move back a spot, and yet they still get their guy, Solomon Thomas. And then later in the first round, like you said, another guy who fell because of a diluted sample. The 49ers picked up Reuben Foster, who I thought was a top 10 talent in this draft. I thought could have gone in the top 10 and should have gone in the top 10. And you look at this defense, Solomon Thomas, and then you match Reuben Foster with Navarro Bowman, a guy who can mentor him and a guy who can work with him on the field. I think that's a great linebacker crew right off the get-go. Like, no need to kind of mold it together. I think they're already going to be a great linebacker duo. The thing to watch for Reuben Foster, he's got the bad shoulder, but you know what? I think if he can stay healthy, I think he's going to be a tremendous player. Watching him at Alabama, I've watched Alabama closely the last few years. It's just a team I like to watch. Reuben Foster is one of the hardest hitting players I've seen. He can fly up and down the field, number to number. So he's, that's a great pick to get, especially late in the first round like that. And they got a running back from Utah, Joe Williams, who's, I think, a burner. He's very good. He's the guy to keep an eye on. He might be, Colin Cowherd referred to him as the steal of the draft. We'll see about that, but the Niners, good for them. My loser, Kansas City Chiefs. Here's why. Two first round picks they traded to move up, and they wanted to get Patrick Mahomes. Not sure how I feel about that pick, especially considering the fact that they traded up to draft a quarterback. Deshaun Watson was still on the board, and they went with Mahomes anyway. I'm not sure what to think about it. The kid out of Texas Tech, he's got a great arm. He's a gunslinger. People say he's fun to watch. I don't know, especially where the Chiefs are at. Their team, they had a first-round bye last year. There's a lot of good value you get out of first-round picks. They're still in a position where they can compete in the AFC. They shouldn't be giving away these picks for a future investment. I understand Alex Smith is not a part of the team's long-term future, but if they traded up and got Watson, that'd be something I'd look at and I'd say, okay, you know what, this team is a few years away now. Mahomes, it's just such a toss-up. You don't really know where it's going to go. He could be great, but it's such a risk, and I'm not sure if it's going to pay off for him. Not a pick I'm a huge fan of, not a trade I like. So yeah, the Kansas City Chiefs are my losers. Finally, MLB previews. Scotty, you and I, New York fans of both teams, Mets, Yankees. A lot of people thought the Mets were going to be running the MLB this year. A lot of people thought the Yankees were going to be in a rebuild year. Kind of been the opposite way around, but then again, still very early in the year. First month in, give me just a few words, a big takeaway of how April went in the MLB.
I'd say exhilarating and injury-riddled. So the Mets, obviously, Syndergaard came out yesterday, partial right lat tear.
Yeah.
It's going to be 6 weeks at the best. Kershaw was able to do it in 6 weeks last year. At the worst, it'll be around 2 months. But this is one of the injuries like an oblique injury where it really lingers. And we don't know if we're going to see this 100-mile-per-hour throwing Syndergaard later in the year. If he does come back, probably not till after the All-Star break. I'm not really sure about this Mets team right now. Ray Ramirez, the head trainer, has done a terrible job, in my opinion. You have Cespedes, who said he was complaining about injury, played the next day, rounding first base on a double, hurt. Now he's on the DL.
Yeah.
Lucas Duda on the DL. This Mets team is really having some problems. And just injuries all around. We know with the Tommy John influx, luckily, we haven't had any pitchers get Tommy John yet this season. But I can feel it coming around soon. And I'm looking forward to a great MLB season, but we know this is going to be a long season where replacement players have to step up and injuries will take effect.
Yeah, I mean, my takeaway for the first month is pretty similar. I think it's been a bit of a surprise. A lot of people were talking about the Cubs. Cubs are off to a slow start. I think they're obviously going to be fine, but off to a slow start nonetheless. The Boston Red Sox are off to a slow start. A lot of people thought the addition of Chris Sale, guys like Mookie Betts, Xander Bogaerts, Andrew Benintendi, people thought they were going to have a good season. Still think they're going to win the AL East, unfortunately, for my New York Yankees, who, by the way, I think the Yankees are a lot closer to competing in the MLB than we thought heading into this year. Like I said, labeled as a rebuild year. Some of their best prospects, Clint Frazier, Gilbert Torres, none of these guys are even in the MLB yet. But you look at Aaron Judge, who's already hit 10 home runs this season. He's hitting above 300. Starlin Castro is like third in the MLB, batting average around 350. Didi Gregorius is off the DL. Greg Bird at first. Chase Headley's playing well. Brett Gardner's always been a very consistent player. Gary Sanchez is a good player behind the plate. But the question for the Yankees was pitching. CC Sabathia's pitched fantastic. Luis Severino's pitched pretty well. Michael Pineda's been very solid. And, Masahiro Tanaka, after a rocky start, has kind of found his way a little bit. It's interesting, I think baseball is more fun when the Yankees are involved. And, you know what? I think it's good for them that they got some wins under their belt. Anything else to add, Scotty?
Yeah, so back to that, I like to make a bold prediction. I say Joe Girardi is going to win the AL Manager of the Year, and the Yankees are going to win the AL East. This team is on fire, and this is without Didi Gregorius for the majority of the season so far. Now with Didi in the lineup, hitting over 400. This is a player who's a borderline all-star player last year, and I think could easily be an all-star player this year. And they're still playing without Gary Sanchez right now. They have Austin Romine behind the plate.
And he's done well.
Yeah, he's done well, but I think this is a Yankees team that could really make a run. And then the question has the Mets linked to the Yankees with Matt Harvey. Matt Harvey's obviously a New York guy. He has 1 year left on his contract after this year. And the question begins, if the Mets are below 500 well into June, should they trade Matt Harvey? It's a storyline to watch, and I think there are a couple big trades that the Yankees can make, especially of starting pitchers.
Yeah, without a doubt, the Harvey thing, it's been something to kind of keep your eye on for the better part of the last year. I'm very excited to see, though. I think this might be the year that Harvey gets dealt and wears a different uniform. Finally, MVPs in the AL and NL. Cy Young's putting you on the spot. Just give me something.
NL Cy Young, I'm going to go with Kershaw. Kershaw's the best pitcher in the MLB, best pitcher of our generation, and I think he continues to dominate this year. And the AL MVP, I'm going to go Mike Trout again. Yeah. This guy is the MVP every year if you're frankly talking. It's like LeBron James. He's hitting 360 right now with 6 homers. This guy constantly hits, and I think he's going to win the AL MVP again.
All right, yeah, so for me, the NL MVP, I'm going to go with Bryce Harper. He's hitting above 400 right now. We kind of had a slow year last year after defending his MVP title. Bryce Harper is one of the most exciting players to watch in sports altogether. He's absolutely raking right now, so I definitely think he's going to win NL MVP. AL Cy Young, I'm going with a guy who's got no run support thus far, but has had 10 strikeouts in 4 straight starts. Chris Sale, the new Boston Red Sox. He's pitched well. Record doesn't tell the story because he's got no run support behind him. I think the Red Sox are going to start hitting for him. I think he's going to win the AL Cy Young. Scotty, anything else to add?
Yeah, I'll double down on that Chris Sale pick. Definitely a good pick. I think he's going to win the Cy Young for the AL also.
All right, that's all the time we got. Once again, Matt Schlegel for Scotty Lentz. Keep an eye out on the channel for episodes 8 and more to come soon as the NHL and NBA playoffs continue. Thanks for watching.